You want to know the truth about this job? Fine. Pull up a chair. Hope you brought your own coffee, because what we have at the station house tastes like burnt battery acid and regret. 15 years I've been doing this in the Pacific Northwest. 15 years of pulling people out of ravines, dense timber, and glacier crevasses. And if there's one thing I've learned, one universal truth that I wish I could tattooing onto the forehead of every weekend warrior rolling up I-5 with a brand new REI membership, it's this: the wilderness doesn't give a damn about you. It doesn't care how many Instagram followers you have. It doesn't care that you're a good person or that you have a promising career back in the city. Out here, you are just calories waiting to expire. The Cascades are beautiful, sure. They're breathtaking. But that beauty is a veneer over an environment that is fundamentally hostile to human life without the right tools. The second you step off the pavement, the clock starts ticking. And most people don't even know they're on the clock until the sun starts dropping behind the ridgeline and the temperature plummets 20 degrees in 20 minutes. People watch these survival shows on TV and they think SAR is all high-drama helicopter hoists and adrenaline-fueled technical rescues. Don't get me wrong, we do those. I've dangled off enough cliff faces to have permanent trust issues with gravity. But 90% of my job? It's babysitting adults who made a series of incredibly stupid, preventable decisions. It's walking 10 miles in the pouring rain, carrying a 50-pound pack full of gear that they should have had, just to find someone shivering under a cedar tree because they tried to hike a mountainside in Vans and a cotton hoodie. Cotton. We call it the Shroud of the Cascades. Cotton kills in this climate. It gets wet from sweat or rain, it stays wet, and it sucks the heat right out of your core. Yet every weekend, I see trailheads packed with people dressed like they're going to an outdoor mall instead of an alpine environment. Let me give you a garden variety example. This was last October. We get a call around 1900 hours on a Tuesday. Sun is already down. Subject is a 24-year-old male, overdue from a day hike. His roommate called it in because the guy wasn't answering his phone. We get to the trailhead. There's his car. A nice, clean Subaru. Inside, we see a map on the passenger seat. That's a good sign. Then we look closer. It's a road atlas. Useless. We assemble the hasty team at the command post. The air already smells like wet ferns and decaying cedar, that thick, damp smell that gets into your sinuses and stays there until July. We start huffing up the trail, headlamps cutting tunnels through the dark. It's quiet out there at night. Not peaceful quiet. Predatory quiet. You stop walking, and the silence just presses in on your eardrums. We're shouting his name every 100 yards. By midnight, my throat feels like I've been gargling gravel. Then the radio crackles. It's that specific, staticky squawk that makes your stomach drop because it usually means bad news. But this time, it's Teen 2. They found him. He wasn't hurt. He was about a mile off trail, hunkered down in a drainage ditch. Here's the kicker: he wasn't lost because he fell or got turned around in a whiteout. He was lost because he saw a cool-looking ridgeline on social media, and he decided to bushwhack straight up a 60-degree slope to get a picture for his feed. No compass. No GPS. Just an iPhone with 4% battery left when we found him. When we got to him, the kid wasn't relieved. He was embarrassed, and then he got defensive. He's sitting there, lips blue, shaking so hard his teeth are literally clattering, and he looks at me dead serious and says, "I almost had it. I just needed a little more light." You want to scream at a kid like that. You want to shake him and ask him if a dozen likes is worth dying of hypothermia in a muddy ditch. But you don't. You're too tired. You just check his vitals, wrap him in a foil blanket, give him some lukewarm sugary tea from your thermos, and start the long, slow trudge back to the trailhead. My knees ache just thinking about that walk out. Every step with that pack on is a little micro-trauma to the joints. By the time we got him back to his car, it was 0400. The birds were starting to wake up. I drove home in a daze, smelling like pine resin and other people's fear. I got 3 hours of sleep before my actual paying job started. That kid probably slept until noon, posted his blurry picture with a caption about surviving the elements, and learned absolutely nothing. That's the grind. That's the reality. It's not the mountain that wears you down. It's the endless, repetitive tide of human arrogance. But it's not just the stupidity that gets to you. If it was just stupidity, you could box it up, label it, and put it away at the end of the shift. It's the things that don't make sense even when you follow the tracks. It's the parts of the job we don't talk about at the press conferences, the details we scrub from the report before we hand it to the family liaison. The public thinks we find people in 2 states, alive and grateful, or peaceful, like they're just sleeping in the woods. They don't know about what happens after 3 days of rain and scavenging animals. They don't know that the first thing you usually smell isn't decomposition, it's the sickeningly sweet smell of a power bar wrapper or a crushed juice box that's been sitting in a pocket for a week. They don't want to know how the forest floor starts to absorb a person, how quickly the moss and the ferns will grow over a boot or a backpack, hiding it from a grid search team walking 10 feet away. It's not malicious. It's just efficient. Nature is incredibly efficient at recycling calories, and that's all we are in the end. Then there are the psychological things. The things that make your skin crawl when you see them. Have you ever heard of paradoxical undressing? It happens in the final stages of severe hypothermia. Your body's core temperature drops so low that the hypothalamus, the part of your brain that regulates temperature, goes haywire. Suddenly, the nerves that control the blood vessels in your extremities relax, and all this warm blood from your core rushes into your frozen arms and legs. The victim, who is literally freezing to death, feels this incredibly intense, burning sensation of heat. They feel like they're on fire. So, what do? They start stripping. We find their gear first. A hat here. A jacket 100 yards later. Then a fleece. We call it the Trail of Tears. You follow it, dreading what you're going to find at the end. And there they are, in the snow, sometimes completely naked, curled up in a fetal position against a rock or under a log. That leads to the other thing. Terminal burrowing. It's an instinct from our mammalian brain. When an animal knows it's dying, it tries to hide. It tries to get low and cover itself. We find grown men wedged into spaces so small you'd think they'd have to break their own bones to get in there. They crawl under root balls or jam themselves into narrow rock fissures, trying to find a warmth that doesn't exist anymore. It's hard enough to find a person in the woods when they want to be found. When their dying instinct is to hide from you, it's almost impossible. There's one case that sticks with me. It was about 7 years ago, up near the Goat Rocks Wilderness. Subject was an experienced hiker, 50 years old, had done the Pacific Crest Trail in his 20s. This wasn't a kid in sneakers. He was prepared. He had a satellite messenger. He knew the area. He went out for a 3-day solo trip and missed his check-in. We launched a full-scale search. Helicopters, dog teams, ground pounders. We had 50 people on the mountain for 5 days. Nothing. The dogs couldn't hold a scent in the scree fields. The weather turned, and we got hit with a freak early blizzard that shut down the air ops. After a week, the sheriff had to make the call to scale back to a passive search, which is code for "we're not looking anymore, but let us know if you find a boot." 2 years later, a group of geology students is out doing field work in a completely different drainage, miles from where this guy was supposed to be. They're way off trail, near a glacial moraine, a place where nobody goes because it's just unstable rock and ice. They find a trekking pole. Then they find a pack. We went back in to do the recovery. I was on the team. We found him another mile past his gear. And this is the part that keeps me up. He wasn't at the bottom of a cliff. There were no signs of a struggle or an animal attack. His gear was neatly laid out. His tent was pitched perfectly, taut and secure against the wind. His boots were by the door, laces tied together. He was sitting inside the tent, leaning against his pack, just gone. The medical examiner said it was exposure, which is the catch-all term when they can't find a bullet hole or a broken neck. But here's the thing. His satellite messenger was in his pocket. Fully charged. He never turned it on. He had a whistle on his pack strap. He never blew it. He had food. He had water. It was like he just walked 10 miles in the wrong direction, pitched his tent in the most desolate, unforgiving place he could find, and decided he was done. He just stopped. I've seen panic. I've seen fear. I know what it looks like when someone fights to stay alive until their last breath. But I had never seen resignation like that. That quiet, deliberate giving up. It makes you wonder what goes through a person's mind in those last few hours when the silence of the wilderness finally breaks them. We packed him out on a litter. It took us 12 hours. By the time we got back to the incident command post, nobody was talking. You get this look on your face after a recovery like that. The 1,000-yard stare. You're dehydrated, you're bruised, you smell like sweat and death, and you have to walk past the family in the parking lot and try to keep your face neutral, because if you show them a single crack in your armor, they'll fall apart right there. We loaded the gear into the trucks in silence. The only sound was the wind coming down off the glacier, the same wind that had been blowing over that guy's tent for 2 years. That drive home, I don't think I blinked once. You try to leave it on the mountain. You tell yourself it's just a job. But then you close your eyes, and you see that perfectly pitched tent in the middle of nowhere, and you realize that some parts of the job follow you home no matter how many showers you take. People always ask me if I get used to it. They want to know if you build up a callus over that part of your brain, if seeing a 20-year-old zipped into a body bag eventually just becomes another Tuesday. The answer is no. You don't get used to it. You just get better at compartmentalizing. You build little boxes in your mind, and you shove the bad stuff inside, and you wrap them in duct tape and bury them deep. But the boxes aren't airtight. Sometimes I'll be at a barbecue in the suburbs. People are laughing, drinking beer, complaining about their HOA fees or their kid's soccer coach. And I'm standing there, holding a paper plate, but my mind is 1,000 miles away. I'm back on that scree slope with the guy who gave up. I'm smelling that specific scent that clings to my gear after a long search, a mix of damp earth, pine needles, and something else, something metallic, like old copper. My wife calls it the mountain smell. She says she can smell it on me for days after a big call, no matter how many times I shower. It gets in your pores. It gets in your head. It's hard to relate to normal problems when you've spent the last 48 hours looking for a missing child in a dense rhododendron thicket. You come home, and your buddy is upset because the barista messed up his coffee order, and you just want to grab him by the shoulders and shake him. You want to tell him how lucky he is that his biggest problem is lukewarm milk, because you just spent 2 days looking at a mother whose world has fundamentally shattered. But you don't say anything. You just nod and sip your beer and stay in your compartment. And then there are the ones we never find. Those are the ones that don't stay in the boxes. The public forgets about them after a few weeks, when the news cycle moves on to the next tragedy. But we don't. There's a stretch of old-growth forest on the Olympic Peninsula where I'd been on 3 separate searches in 10 years where we came up with absolutely nothing. Not a boot print. Not a candy wrapper. Not a single fiber of clothing. We had hundreds of volunteers, infrared drones, bloodhounds, the works. It was like the forest just opened up its mouth, swallowed them whole, and closed back up again. You stand out there on the fire road on day 7 when they call off the search. The sheriff thanks everyone for their time. People pack up their gear and head back to their lives. And you're left looking at that green wall of trees. It looks so peaceful, so indifferent. You know they're in there. You know you walked right past them. Maybe you were 10 feet away, but a gust of wind shifted the scent away from the dogs, or a trick of the light made a piece of blue jacket look like a patch of wet moss. It haunts you. The idea that a person can just cease to exist. One minute they are a complex human being with a mortgage and a favorite song and people who love them, and the next minute they are just gone. Absorbed by the landscape. So, when people ask me for advice about going into the backcountry, they expect me to talk about survival knives or fire starters. And yeah, carry the 10 essentials. That's baseline. But my real advice is simpler, and harder for people to accept. It's this: stop assuming you're the main character. We all walk around with this subconscious belief that if things get really bad, someone will come save us. That there's a safety net. That the universe wouldn't let us freeze to death a mile from a logging road because that's not how our story is supposed to end. But out there? There is no narrative. The wilderness is not a theme park. It is a massive, indifferent biological machine that has been running for millions of years, and it does not care if you live or die. Before you step off that trailhead, take a second. Turn off your phone. Stop thinking about the photo you're going to post. Look at that tree line. Really look at it. Acknowledge that you are entering a place where the rules of civilization do not apply. Acknowledge that you are small, and you are fragile, and you are temporary. And for God's sake, tell someone exactly where you are going and when you will be back. Because if you don't, and something goes wrong, the only trace you'll leave behind is a fading set of tracks and the sound of the wind. And trust me, nobody wants to be the one who finds you when the wind is the only thing left talking.